Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Today we've got a lot of our executive team from the Scylla team here to answer a lot of the questions that you submitted. Before we get started, I wanted to thank everyone that has submitted questions and everyone that's attending today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule as well as the time just to bring these questions to our attention. We're really excited to go through these, give you some more information about what Scylla is doing in the AI space, and help answer some of your most pressing questions around AI and analytics on that side. So on the panelists today, we've got several executives. As an introduction, my name is Brendan Borgestad. I'm the business development manager with Scylla. And we've got three others, Albert, Arent, and Ashot. If you guys could introduce yourselves before we get started, that would be awesome.
Hey guys, I'm Albert, CEO and founder of Scylla. I have a dual background. I was in military, then I was in long years in technology space, and now more or less on the business side, still doing product and technology. And with me on the line, we have Aral, who is our VP of product.
Hey guys, I'm Ghazaryan, VP of AI/product at Scylla. Having few decades of background in academia, I eventually joined Scylla team some 5 years ago to take part in development of cool products and solutions Scylla offers.
Awesome. And we also have Ashot on the call as well too.
Hey, my name is Ashot. I'm the CTO of Scylla. I'm here to answer to your possible technical questions.
Perfect. So we have a powerhouse of all of our executives here. I'm just the MC moderating, but yeah, I've got a lot of the top guys here today and excited to answer your questions on AI and what Scylla is doing. But before we get started, would love to pass the microphone over to you, Albert, just to share a little bit more about the benefits of using AI in the physical security space, as well as just kind of getting into some of the first questions that we have here too.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Brian. We created Scylla because we believe there is a need in the market for an end-to-end video intelligence solution, anything related to detecting threats using computer vision and AI, helping safety teams mitigate risks, reduce liability in the facilities, and all in all, understand what's happening in the video feed, better control their day-to-day operations, and essentially save them money, right? So when we started Scylla, we had a firm belief that people are not trained to watch cameras, so AI or technology should do that, and people are trained to respond to the situation, because it's better to have your security or safety people in the field helping people rather than trying to identify what's happening. This essentially can be easily solved using technology and AI.
Awesome. And kind of going into that too, and starting off with the benefits of AI as well, one of the questions that was submitted is how will security agencies as well as monitoring centers too that use video analytics benefit compared to those that aren't using analytics on that side?
It's an easy answer, right? So with us, companies can essentially watch like 100 times or 1,000 times more cameras with one security operator, and without us, they have to keep lots of manpower. And as I said before, like people are not trained to do that. People are not good at watching screens. Also, this is a very mundane and then not interesting job. We live in the 21st century. People should use technology and then do something more interesting and useful for themselves, right? Like, so AI should watch the screens, and AI should tell people, like, this is where you should pay attention to, this is what's happening in the screen, or this is what kind of security protocols you should activate to respond to this or that situation.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we talk a lot about manpower, but if we can decrease that and instead have a solution that's as if you were having a person watch the screen that doesn't take bathroom breaks, doesn't take lunch breaks, doesn't blink, doesn't yawn, and can monitor those screens at a fraction of the cost too, is definitely a benefit add from a cost perspective as well as accuracy on that side too. Awesome. So kind of jumping through the solution as well too. I know we had a few technical questions as well. And before that, would love to just kind of give an overview of our dashboard just to have everyone on the call familiar with the Scylla solution. So Albert, if you don't mind sharing your screen, would love to just dive into the dashboard, give a little bit of overview on our capabilities, and then we'll dive deeper into some of these more technical questions that bounce off those as well too.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Ron. Please confirm if you can see my screen now.
Perfect. Just switching over.
Okay, that's good. As I said before, we have created Scylla as a threat detection system, but more and more we identified that there is a need for a end-to-end video intelligence solution, which Scylla is now. So it all starts when you go to the main screen of the dashboard, right? You can see amount of operators watching the screen. You can see amount of sites which you have in place, and you can see the amount of deployments, right? Whether that's cloud deployment, on-premise deployment, or edge, using our Hysteria edge devices. Here on the screen, you also can identify the list of latest alarms that you got, and also amount of security and AI features connected. So we have 3 tiers. We call it basic tier, AI tier, and then advanced tier. In the basic tier, you do essentially what you do on your video wall, right? You can connect to cameras, you can watch cameras, you can understand what's happening in the video feed. You can zoom cameras, and also there's some kind of a preliminary recording in the cloud, which we also enable for data centers, and that's not available on our Hysteria boxes because those are small factor edge appliances. So within basic tier, you get also very powerful intrusion detection system, which will filter out your false alarms and identify any potential intrusions, right? Then once you switch to the, and I'll show you a couple of intrusion detection cases here, very interesting ones, which we simulated and connected from some of our customers and also partners. So like in this case, we can even identify people in very harsh situations, which it's difficult to identify, right? So once you get to the basic tier, you can then start buying features from our AI tier, and we have more than 15 features now available, including some of those which you cannot see on the screen now. And we're up to date. We are one of the most advanced and also holistic end-to-end AI providers. So we have things like intrusion detection using deep learning. We have features regarding anomaly detection, like in retail, such as shoplifting behavior. We can identify fights, we can identify vandalism, we can identify crowd violence. We also are we are developing a lot of new solutions around environment hazards, like smoke and fire detection. Flood detection is going to come soon on the market. We started as a gun detection company, so we are very good in doing that. And then some of the external benchmarks also noticed that we are very aggressive in suppressing false positives. And so far, we never missed true positives for our deployments. We also have integrations with existing thermal cameras, mainly with Mobotics M16 and M73. And we identify things, right, like waste management overheating, potential overheating on the lithium battery plants. We have been doing a lot of stuff around COVID-19 compliance for the last 2 years, right? Identifying people wearing masks, people not wearing masks, emergency contact search, etc. We also have the full suite of the facial recognition solutions, including what you would find in our advanced suite, like access control. We can integrate into existing access control systems and essentially replace your ticketing or access cards, right, using face and providing also double verification. Scylla is growing very actively in the healthcare field, so we have solutions around sleep and fall detection, around elderly patient search, identifying if the patient is waking up from the bed, etc. And recently we started also to deploy more and more solutions around foreign objects and also abandoned objects. Things like bags left behind in the airports, foreign objects in the debris on the airport, landslides, waste management, detecting people who are littering and then identifying those, etc. We have lots of capabilities around banking. Previously, we deployed a couple of projects around ATM vandalism and also identifying people wearing robbery masks. And as I said before, in the basic tier, you will find lots of features around filtering false alarms. And sometimes we have a joke, so we say we don't detect spiders like most of our competitors do. We detect only Spider-Man, right? So it should be a human crossing an intrusion line or a tripwire rather than just anything that moves. But intrusion detection is not only about detecting intrusions, we have so much more. So by the end of November, like essentially closer to the end of Q4, we'll have a new advanced tier released on the market, which will be running both on the data centers and also on cloud. which we call the Video Intelligence Advanced tier, and that will have lots of new features around traffic flow analysis, around searching people by attributes, and then mixing, matching those. And some of the essentially labels that are being ready now, you can find already that we can identify guns, rifles, knives, shotguns. We also have different types of human attributes. For example, we can already classify objects such as cars, buses, trucks, people, vehicle, motorcycles, and then 2 new classes are coming. Small boats are coming soon, and also birds in the sky, because we want to identify anomaly that's happening in the sky, right? We also have, as I said, we can classify things such as vandalism, crowd violence, fight, etc. And that's not the end, right? So closer to the end of November, we'll have new features around person search, right? So, for example, I can search for a guy like myself in a red backpack with Scylla logo on the t-shirt and then holding a gun. And depending on how many features you already have activated in the system, you can mix and match those. And this is done using our powerful rules engine. So essentially using our rules and schedules, you can do pretty much whatever you have in your imagination, right? And then using schedules, you can achieve that. So for example, I can say, look, there is a situation where I want to find Albert with a gun and Albert wearing a red backpack, right? So you could do that using our person search and attribute search. You can select the type. So you can say, look, once I identify an intrusion, which is myself, right? I want to select a couple of sites. Then I want to pair it with a new rule, which is Albert holding a gun. And then add another rule, which is Albert having a red backpack, and add another rule, which is Albert having a Scylla logo. And that all will start searching real time and also forensically, right? And then give you all the necessary information about what's happening in your facility. And depending on how many features you activate, you can essentially go even further. You can say, look, I want to find Albert with a gun, which just had done a shoplifting in the nearest retail shop. And then, by the way, he was running so fast that he crossed an intrusion line. And he also was on a watch list, right? So the potential of rules and then schedules that you can define with our AI is unlimited. And you can pretty much mix and match all of the features that we have on the marketplace now, right? Using our new advanced tier. And this, with this, essentially, you'll have all your needs covered inside the facility, right? You don't have to go and shop from different providers and buying gun detection from one guy and another facial recognition from another guy, and then maybe storyscaping or synopsis search from another guy. So you can just buy it from Scylla. The good thing about us is that we know how our features work. It's all being developed in-house. It's done by a group of PhDs like Ghazaryan here with us. We are very, very efficient in utilizing hardware resources, so you don't need crazy GPU servers to run our solution. You still need GPU, but in average, we require 2 to 3 times less GPU servers than the closest competitor. Plus, you don't have to negotiate different pricing with different vendors, and we have a very sophisticated way how to integrate with existing video management systems. So you as a customer can go directly and use our dashboard as it is on your video wall, or if you need more sophisticated integration, camera control, etc., you can use our existing integrations with the VMS providers and camera providers. We are very strategic in these relationships, and we work directly with the camera manufacturers, and like we have so far integrations with most of the existing VMS or camera providers globally. If we are not integrating with some of them, means we are competing with them or their existing systems in place. So that's it, like our vision that we have to replace your existing video wall is happening now. It's happening very fast and it's happening very effective. We are very well known on the market as one of the most accurate solution in place. So that's what I can tell you like about Scylla in short, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the overview, Albert. And just to kind of dive deeper too, I know a lot of these questions are going to kind of feed off of a lot of that on the overview of what Scylla is doing. And first, yeah, we're going to just start going through these again. Thank you for everyone who submitted these questions on that side. The first one I'm going to actually hand off to Ara on this side. The question came in, can our solution work without internet connection on that side? I know a lot of different customers have maybe a more protected environment Could you give a little more detail on what that looks like not using the internet?
Yeah, definitely. Short answer is yes. All of our solutions can be deployed on premise, on cloud, and also we have edge version where some of the analysis takes place on site. And then it's up to, let's say, up to you if you want to get the alerts connected to the device, or you want to get it the alerts or all the statistics, etc., in the sophisticated dashboard that Albert has shown. So again, if it's up to the user use case, I would say, unless you want some specific availability from all over the world, you want to see your dashboard from across the world, etc., then yes, it can work without internet, doesn't need any connection, just a connection to the camera, on-site analysis, and then you have the analytics again on-site connected to anything, alarms and everything.
Awesome. So yeah, so with the flexibility with the on-premise, the edge, and or the cloud, or any hybrid mix of those, we can definitely adapt to your environment for the customer on that side, and definitely can have that ability even without the need of internet connection, depending on how we want it set up. So awesome. So one of the other questions too that we had come in is, with this, is this installed on the camera itself, or does it need any integrations? I'm going to pass this one over to Ashot, just on whether it needs to be installed on the camera itself.
That's a good question. And initially, we designed Scylla to work as a centralized solution, server-based with the GPU power. And usually, the way we integrate with the cameras is the RTSP protocol. And each and every IP camera has the support of the RTSP protocol, so we utilize that. That's in terms of integration. But the software is working on the server side. As Ara mentioned, we have 3 different types of deployments. We can deploy on-prem, we can deploy on edge device, and we can deploy on the cloud. And the way we integrate with the camera, the primary way is the RTSP. And we also sometimes work with the SDK integrations, like in case of some MVRs, some specific brands and models, and also with the cameras directly. But the analytics happens on the server side, where there's a GPU power. But it's also worth mentioning that we also understand that there is a demand for the analytics to work directly on the camera, and we are doing some stuff to start supporting that with some specific brands of the cameras.
We can give a short tease like what's going to come on this. So we already have a couple of camera providers which work with us closely to move some of our AI on the edge, and one of them is Mobotics. So we are working very closely with them to move a couple of features to run on edge embedded, right? We also have new camera providers coming, like as I said before, we work with most of the existing camera vendors, right? Like we have very good relationship with them, and those who don't work with us means they have some kind of a competitive solution. That's why we don't want to work with them, or we don't work with them, right?
Perfect. And Ashot, what I'm hearing you say too is, yeah, as long as we can capture that RTSP stream on that side, or connect with their VMS and things like that too, we're good to go. We monitor the stream in real time on that side. So we're not selling any cameras ourselves. We're not a camera hardware manufacturer. Again, like Albert mentioned, we do have strategic partners that we're looking for further partnerships of actually integrating with their hardware. But with that, as long as we can capture that RTSP stream on that side, we're good to go on that side too. And Ashot, one of the other questions, and you kind of alluded to this as well too, is and we'd mentioned it, the on-premise versus the cloud versus the edge. What's the difference in those 3, and what are maybe some of the advantages and disadvantages of those 3 options?
Okay, so to classify that, on-premise is usually for the big enterprises having, let's say, more than 120, 200 or maybe more than cameras. And they also have infrastructure in place to deploy the servers, physical servers, along with the network capabilities and and all of the stuff that needs to be hosting the server on site. Cloud is more of a software as a service solution. It is fully managed by Scylla, and there's only a requirement from the customer to bring their cameras to the cloud, and the rest is handled by Scylla, along with the support and maintenance. And for the edge is mostly about the customers who are willing to run Scylla on-prem, but don't have infrastructure in place, right? They don't have data centers, they don't have proper networking. So it's a small device. It can be installed anywhere without any connectivity, which does the analytics on site. So on-prem for large-scale deployments, cloud for fully managed by Scylla for the customers who doesn't have any infrastructure in place, and the edge is for those who wants to run the solution on-prem, but they don't have the infrastructure in place.
Plus the edge devices that we created, which are stereo boxes, they used to be 3 sizes. Now we created 2 more sizes to become more edge appliances and handle more cameras. They are very distribution friendly. So previously Scylla was going either direct in some countries or channel only, right? Depending on our agreement with the local partners. But we had no product which is distribution friendly because we were providing only software. With our edge devices, we started working heavily with large distributors, and we became very distribution friendly. So now distribution partners can stock our edge devices and then resell to the integration partners. We do a lot of hand-in-hand trainings for our distributors. So like a typical scenario, let's say in Texas, we have Southwest Automated System, which is our partner. They are inviting their integrators, which they work with. We have a day, like monthly, and like 1 day in a month, we essentially do catering, and then some of our guys, like for example, yourself, Brennan, is traveling there and then doing the training for integrators and then teaching them and showing them how the Hysteria box is working. And then they can already like buy it on place or start developing their own pipeline. So now with our edge devices, we became much more channel and also distribution friendly than before.
Absolutely. And I think too, one thing that's worthy of mentioning too is with all 3 of these options, it definitely gives us the flexibility to what the customers need. I know we have a lot of different customers come to us that, again, maybe a large enterprise don't want the internet connected to the server. We'll do something on-premise on that side. For other customers, they want something easy, plug and play with still an on-premise environment. Perfect. The edge device in our Scylla Hysteria is the perfect fit for them. Whereas we have a lot of customers too also moving to the cloud where they say, hey, you know what, we want this off our plate. We'd rather it be managed by Scylla. Let's just run it in the cloud too. And so having that flexibility between the 3 or even any hybrid mix of those 3 too is really a big value add. I know there's several monitoring centers that are coming to us where historically most of their cameras are more of a cloud environment, but then they have a few remote sites that they'd rather actually put an edge device out there that is more of a remote site that isn't getting as good of connection. And I know we have some questions around that too that we'll hit on too, but having that flexibility between the 3 is a value add to our customers as well. Just giving them the flexibility to choose between the 3 or do a mix and a hybrid mix of those as well too. So they're not just limited to just one configuration as well too. But awesome. So one of the other questions that came in, and this is why we brought our top dogs on this call too. Albert, which solutions do you see in the AI space will dominate in the market in 2 to 3 years?
I would frame this differently, right? All of the solutions have a demand. It's a matter of the quality of the solution. There's so many companies trying to do the same stuff, and it's not new. So video intelligence or analytics companies, like we're trying to do this for the last 10 years. But not a secret that we haven't seen any large player dominating the market, right? So my answer to this, like whoever like has the best solution, the most accurate solution, and then can essentially create a real AI, which can adapt to many use cases, that company will dominate the market. We as a company also believe that it's not only security, and we should invest more time and money into safety space, like going to manufacturing, waste management, smart city, and then trying to automate processes using computer vision. And if one company can essentially tackle many use cases having a generic AI, then that company will guide the market, right? So it's not, but again, It's not new, like many companies tried it and many companies did not succeed. And I would say it's just because of the technology, right? Because the demand is incredible on the market. And then like everybody, like camera vendors, channel partners, distributors, end customers, they all want something to automate their internal processes, reduce costs and reduce liability. And so far the demand is there. It's about companies like ourselves to supply the demand, which they have been failing to do so for some reason.
Awesome. So I kind of alluded to some of this with the internet side, as well as some of the things with the more remote sites too. I'm going to pass this question back to Ara on the technical side too. Can the development of broadband internet or such as 5G contribute to the cloud solution? And what about GDPR? If you could kind of touch on some of this stuff too, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, definitely looking forward for 5G and the connectivity bandwidth that will come with it. Currently, it's kind of sometimes it's painful when the customer wants the cloud solution. He has the everything prepared. The only missing link is actually the link, the network itself. And there is a will, but there is no technology to do that yet. But we are looking forward to 5G becoming more and more well spread out. And then I think cloud will prevail starting from that, because actually, unless we're talking about this privacy sensitivity issues and everything, cloud is always a preference of choice, especially from our side, tech choice. As Ashot said, it's being maintained by us. It's much easier than, you know, sending someone or connecting remotely and fixing something if there are things to fix.
So about the GDPR and other compliances, Scylla is ISO 27001 certified. And our cloud is also SOC type 1 and type 2 compliant. We have the reports, and we are also officially GDPR compliant. If there is a customer willing to receive the copies of audits and certificates, we are ready to provide that.
Awesome. And this is why I bring the smart guys on this call too. So I appreciate you guys going through that. One of the questions as well too, Ara, that came up is around moving backgrounds and moving cameras. Are we able to detect different objects on moving cameras?
Yes, definitely, and that's one of our differentiators and one of the strong, abilities that we always differentiated with similar solutions. And also one of the abilities that lets us to use our solutions on drones, on moving cameras, such as like, you know, vehicle mounted cameras, body cameras. There's one Brandon is showing currently. It's just a demonstration of our UAV mounted surveillance. There will be a detection, I think sometime now. There's nothing now, but if you switch fast forward, then you will barely, okay, well, you won't see it, but there are guys coming out of the car with guns and some weapons in their hands. And yeah, the background is in UAV surveillance is always moving, but that doesn't hinder us detecting the objects, and not only weapons, but also, of course, intrusion detection. Almost any other type of the object that Scylla is detecting can be done on a moving background, no problem.
Awesome. So that could be drones as well as like PTZ cameras or body cameras. As long as we can capture that stream, we can be picking up any of these different objects, actions, or behavior anomalies, such as the weapons, intruders, even fights, things like that as well too.
Exactly, and not only that, but also we're using this ability to detect abandoned objects also. So there's a solution dedicated to that. We can understand what is the background, what is the object left on in this background, and then we can alert security if there's an abandoned object. Or also we can use this solution for visual pollution detection when there are people littering, and then we can detect this littering acts and actually detect people who do this littering and prosecute them by fines, etc. So these solutions do exist and we provide them.
Awesome. One of the other questions too came around our Scylla Hysteria. So just to recap, that's our edge device here too. I'm going to pass this on to Ashot, but Ashot, if you could give us an overview on what solutions currently the Scylla Hysteria supports, would love to dive deeper into that.
Okay, so that's an easy question. Almost all of the modules are ported into Hysteria, except some large ones, for example, traffic flow analysis, which is not ported to the small and medium boxes, but we are going to port that to the large boxes. It might be L or it might be XL. We don't know yet, but definitely there will be an availability for the TFA on the boxes. The rest of the modules are ported and ready to go.
Awesome. So perimeter and intrusion detection, as well as then facial recognition, but then also the anomalies like fights, slip and fall, suspicious shopping behavior, as well as smoke and fire too on that. So awesome. And it sounds like from what you're saying too, the roadmap, again, we have some of our larger sizes, and I know Albert mentioned those too, some of these larger ones that we're adding. That's where a lot of our bigger, heavier set features like traffic flow analysis and some of the more advanced AI searches as well too. Those will have the capabilities on our larger sizes coming up here in the future too. Awesome. So one of the other questions too is, so how are the notifications stored inside of the Scylla Hysteria, and how does that working?
So the box itself is storing 500 alarms, and after you pass that number, it's going to delete the alarms. In case you have the box connected to the Scylla cloud, it will still stay on the cloud. But on the local box, there will be 500 alarms available per box. That's kind of a number which we can increase. That is coming by default, 500, and it all depends on the box size, right? If you have the small box, it's going to be less. If you have the medium and large boxes, it's going to increase by the size. But notifications, as you may use Scylla box to send alarms to different places, right? Not only within the box, but you can also connect Scylla Cloud. You can connect any kind of VMS, or you can have your own SMTP server, or maybe another system which is allowing to receive alarms with the TCP UDP protocols. If you take that alarms off the box to the other system, it will be there forever, of course, because it's a different hardware, different environment. But on the box itself, we say 500 alarms.
Perfect. So going through some of these other ones as well, one of the questions that came in, and we're going to kind of just start rolling through these just to be respectful of everyone's time too. One of the questions that came in, can the received alarms be transferred directly to the police station, or can the system send alarms to 911?
That's a good question. We work with some of the providers that provide 911 calls and APIs. It can be used to integrate the cloud on-prem and also the box version to send alarm to those services, and then those services can dispatch 911.
I can show it how it works. So my philosophy is like better show than talk, right? And this is what also makes us very different from competitors. And we're very, very aggressive in our claims, but we always show what we talk about. So Brent, if you give me the screen share access, I can show you how it's done.
Awesome. Yeah, the screen should be yours.
Yep. So essentially, if you navigate to the dashboard, right, and then you go to the settings page, within settings page, it's very robust, right? You can add like control menu, like most of the settings within our system. But one thing which I like the most is essentially integrations, right? You can have, let's say, an Emacs integration, or you can have a Sentinel integration for the monitoring, and you can also define custom endpoints. So you can essentially create any types of webhooks, and you can also add external 911 notification system, rapid notification system, or depending whatever. Like in every country, you have like something different. In Mexico, you have C5. In Colombia, you have C4. In the US, you have 911 mass notification systems. Even in Armenia, they have a different system. right? So within our settings and then having new integrations here, you can just like add and then send whatever you want, right? So that's essentially how it works.
Perfect. And with our integrations too, yeah, we can send both the video clip and the photo too. So we're given that visualizations in the alarms as well. One thing to note too, Albert, if you could pull up the dashboard as well, is especially for some of the larger enterprise customers like schools and hospitals, if we have school districts that have police already involved somehow, or they're tied in with the school district, we can actually give them different alarm managements too and help them control that as well, where they can actually already be receiving this and give different permissions as well to that, where I know different school districts, we have it set up where the main school resource officer that looks over the whole school district, they have access to all the sites, the high school, the middle school, the elementary school, and can get notifications for any of the big alarms like fights and weapons. Whereas then each individual school can have their own resource officer or principal that can get the alerts for just their school individually or whatever it might be. And so we can customize this by the module, by the cameras, by the sites, and give that permission too. And so if it is more of a government or education type environment too, we can tie that in directly with our user management, or like Albert mentioned too, have the mobile 911 reporting or any of those other police dispatch integrations too as an endpoint to send both the video alarm, same as you would see in our alarm management of both a video clip and a snapshot. We would send all of that over with the endpoint integration as well too. Awesome. So Ashot, one of the other questions that came in as well too is, yeah, let me pull up. So can the system have multiple detections elements per camera as well?
Sure. As I mentioned before, you connect the camera with the RTSP, and then we can broadcast that stream to a different analytics engines, right? And then camera can set up to detect guns, can set up to detect fights, also intruders, and anything you like. In the dashboard, if you notice, there is a list of modules, and you can go ahead and enable any of the modules you would like, and then connect the camera to that module. And that way, the same camera will be capable of doing multiple analytics in the same time.
Perfect. So we can scope out with the customer too, where yeah, some cameras might only need one analytics, some might need 2 or 3, depending on what they're looking out for, as well as 2 if one camera that's just pointed at the broom closet doesn't need anything too. And so that's where we can scale both up and down and left and right with the customer too, giving multiple capabilities, even on one like strategic entrance camera or things like that to be looking for facial rec or weapons or fights. We can have a lot of those running at the same time as well too. One of the other questions that came in is this system capable to track multiple targets in one area or zone simultaneously?
That's a difficult question, but yes, there is a possibility to track the objects between the cameras, and also, of course, between the camera virtual zones, right? With any of the modules in Scala, you can define 2 different types of areas. One is the area you want to detect, and the other is the area you want to ignore, right? We call it active areas and masks. And in that case, if you have multiple active areas in the camera, of course, it tracks. In some of the cases, it will send just one detection, not multiple, because it happened within the same camera. But also with the multiple cameras, you can do the object tracking as well. For example, in our person search, it is possible to track a person with the appearance across different cameras connected in the system.
Perfect. And I know we've talked too, just with that, it's the first object that we see. So again, if we have an instance where maybe people have multiple guns out or things like that, the first one that Scylla sees, we're going to send that alert out right away. We'll also send follow-up alerts of the other weapons that we see too. But a lot of times it's going to be the first one there. So again, you may not see a box around all 2, 3, 4 weapons. You'll see one around the one, but you'll see other alerts coming in for the other ones as well too, just for that, the multiple targets as well for that. So just rolling through, just to be respectful of everyone's time as well too, going through this. One of the questions is, can the system filter stationary moving objects? So things like tree leaves, flags, while also detecting non-stationary objects in the same area as well too. Ara, I'm going to pass this on to you as well. I know this has been one area for a lot of monitoring centers, specifically with trees, with flags, things like that have been setting off a lot of false alarms. Could you kind of dive a little bit deeper on how we're filtering these?
Yeah, exactly. We have a dedicated solution for that, and that's called also false alarm filtering. And as you already mentioned, a lot of moving artifacts, not only leaves and flags. I mean, a car flashing with the lights passing next to the building will also trigger motion, etc. So a lot of moving some artifacts happen, and you wouldn't believe how many. If you have an installation like factory or something with 100 cameras, you are facing something like daily number of 200,000 of alerts or similar. So it's immense number. It's not possible unless you have a huge army of operators watching that. So they are bound to have some kind of pre-filtering for very obvious cases, and that's what false alarm filtering, Scylla false alarm filtering does. It shows off all these not interesting object of interest objects and leaves only object of interest, namely person, vehicle, or some of the other objects you might be interested in. So yeah, definitely system can do that, and very good then.
Perfect. And on that note too, how does it handle with outdoor conditions? So things such as daytime illumination changes, clouds, shadows, rain, as well, and as well as then poor illumination settings as well under indoor versus outdoor, low light, things like that.
And of course, the system is tailored to compile to work with this kind of conditions, of course. Not only bad illumination, but under IR, infrared, and under weather conditions, outdoor, etc. So we're definitely very friendly with that. For example, you're already showing one of the examples. There's an IR thermal imaging, and there's a person walking over there, very distant one, and she is detected on this instance of intrusion detection solution that Scylla is providing. Not only this, but also our other solutions, for example, smoke and fire, definitely operates well on bad illumination conditions like the dark timings with a dark smoke out there coming out of this particular vehicle. Yeah, so all of our solutions are specifically tailored to not have this bias of a bad illumination problem.
Awesome. Perfect. Let me go back to these and a few other kind of questions and comments too. Albert, one of the things that we wanted to cover is why companies aren't adapting AI. If you could touch on that too, and what we can do to help.
So far, we have seen companies not going and implementing solutions like this. Some companies are afraid of risks, right? So they don't understand fully how this works, or the vendor which is basically pitching the solution cannot explain it well. Absence of certifications, vendors cannot prove accuracy on the POC stage. We have seen some companies also have issues. They are afraid that essentially AI is going to replace their employees, and that they don't want to have a backlash for this. But I think it's all about absence of, it's not the companies that don't understand it, it's the vendors are doing a bad job explaining the benefits. So I believe if somebody is not choosing AI, that's my fault. So I did a very bad job with yourself, Brand, and the rest of the BDMs explaining the solution, rather than the companies making the move. Decision like change management is always difficult. I've been in military and change management was difficult. I've been in corporate, change management was difficult. Now even in my company, sometimes when I want to introduce a new change, it's difficult, right? So it's not you guys not accepting a change, it's myself doing a bad job, right? So that's what I can say. Obviously, for companies, it's a new stuff. Some will be scared, some will be scared of risks, some will be scared of liability. But if they understand the benefits, and then if they test the solution, it works well. So we don't see any reason why they shouldn't adopt the AI.
And I think that's one area too. I know, Albert, you and I have chatted about this too, is I think there's been a lot in the market previously that's been promised out there and just hasn't really been up to date to it. And just a lot of companies that aren't necessarily there yet, as well as too, just some solutions that aren't quite there yet as well too. And so I think some of that has burned some bridges with some of our customers where they've tried the AI game before, but they've been burned with that too. And so again, it's kind of helping educate and provide that knowledge, as well as to have the understanding as well, saying, hey, it doesn't need to be as high cost as it has been previously, especially with the hardware consumptions that we can decrease, as well as to just some of the capabilities that haven't been seen before in the market is one of the big things that we're trying to outreach with a lot of the customers we work with.
Believe me, I face this question on every investor meeting. Like any new venture capital I talk to, they're asking, why are you better? And like you have like lots of competitors. And I'm saying, look, I was an engineer 5 years ago. In no way I was an AI engineer. I knew Python, for example, right? And if I know Python, I can go to GitHub, download OpenCV, which is an open source framework with really bad data, biased data. And yeah, maybe I can detect and then in a very controlled environment, understand it's a human or not. And then imagine myself after 5 years, I go and raise $1 million, and then I become a startup and I try to compete with Scylla. That's not how it should work. So you should have people like Ghazaryan and 5 of them working day and night, and you need to have an army of engineers, and then you need to also think out of box, right? So that's a short question to answer to your question.
Absolutely. And the other piece too that you touched on is, again, yeah, a lot of people maybe have this fear that AI is going to take over their jobs or their employees. Again, one of the other things that we bring up too is we're not looking to replace the human element. We still need that to, hey, once we have the alarm out, it's the human that's going to then save the day. We want to just be a proactive tool that can then alert the proper authorities and the proper personnel that, hey, there is an object like a weapon or a fight, or there is a safety concern like a slip and fall proactively too. And so again, providing more of those capabilities with the current staff. I know a lot of different industries have just issues with keeping their staff, just the numbers that as they're growing in size of the company, their staff size isn't able to grow on the safety and security department. And so to help add some of these capabilities definitely can be a big benefit that we're discussing with a lot of our customers today too for that.
And on top of that, just to add on top of that, yeah, well, AI, as you said, it's not to replace, it's to augment. And there's a famous study in the field for security surveillance. They tried the attention decrease of the fellow security officer versus the time. So you wouldn't believe the numbers. In 30 minutes, the decrease is 70%. From the general 100, and then in 1 hour the decrease is unbelievable 28%. And you can imagine if a person is watching these screens for days and months and everything, it's almost you don't have any protection. So AI is here again not to replace the human, but to augment and to decrease the human factor errors that also happen. I mean, they do the mistakes.
Awesome. And so, yeah, we kind of touched on this second one, but kind of going up to this first question here too. Albert, could you touch on a little bit more about the ROI and the return on investment with the video analytics and what we're able to provide from an ROI standpoint?
The main ROI for the companies essentially is the cost factor, right? So you have to divide issues into safety and security. In the security buyer is not buying it unless something happens, right? So for them, investing into an AI solution, it's a bit of like upfront game, right? They need to understand the potential risk. So if you can explain the buyer that essentially with us, you're going to reduce your costs, etc., then they're going to buy it. For the safety, we have seen a different approach. Safety issues are happening at the facilities all day long. So employees can hurt themselves during an incident, right? On manufacturing, there could be an explosion. There could be a fire like on Tesla plants previously. There could be smoke and fire incidents or wildfires like we see in Greece, in Portugal, in LA, etc. Right? For the safety, they have to be always on top of the game. So they have to continuously invest in solutions like this because incidents happen, right? So for the security, the main essentially is liability, right? So implementing a solution like this, you prevent yourself for future liability. Implementing a solution like this, you reduce costs. Implement a solution like this, you save the reputation, and obviously you can reuse your existing stuff on doing, on watching more cameras, on responding faster, doing much more stuff operationally rather than without us. And also we have seen like lots of customers which just have security cameras and nobody's watching them. So it's essentially, it was an already upfront investment for them, which is on the shelf, doing nothing. With Scylla, that's becoming reused, right? So they can reuse their existing cameras, actually doing something useful for them rather than doing nothing.
Yeah, not having it be more of a reactive camera that's sitting there recording, and maybe it can be used forensically later on if something bad happens, instead adding that proactive capability as well too. So awesome. So Ara, one of the other questions too, and we're going to fly through these as well too, some of these last ones here, but one of the applications of using AI is in smart cities. So this idea is widely explored now, but recently, together with the development of transportation in cities like bikes, e-bike rentals, many cities complain about scooters being left in unauthorized or random places for that. So this sounds like a very specific smart city question, and hopefully whoever asked this is able to be on the webinar today. Will Scylla add scooters as an object of interest in the portfolio?
Yes, we are currently adding them. Of course, we're aware of this, the issues, and also because we have a very sophisticated model that can be for several use cases. It was already tailored specifically for the use case. As an example, we have this large parking violation detection solution working in India, and it is specifically tailored to be very accurate and attentive towards two-wheelers. And the cameras are just watching these two-wheelers parked from the top and registering them getting in and out from the specific zones. And again, definitely it's in the backlog, and we're right now adding the additional object of transportation scooters to, and also there's some city e-bikes, etc. to the portfolio.
Awesome. Sounds great. And so Albert, one of the other questions too is, so patrolling public places as well as private physical protection using cameras serves not only as prevention, but also as a deterrent. Does Scylla have plans to integrate with things like IP speakers? So like replaying operator messages, as well as like pre-recorded messages for intruders?
The answer to this is yes and no. So we already do that using relay on our Stadia boxes, right? So we can send a signal, and then assuming the relay has the integration with the IP speakers, etc., so it can raise it. In airports, they have their own systems, which essentially previously I've shown you. Using the dashboard, you can add an endpoint, and using the endpoint, you can send a request, whether that's a GET request, POST request, or whatever, right? And then it can trigger the alarm. But no, which like we don't want to like even farther like widen what we do now, because we already do a lot of stuff and we do it good. So we want to concentrate on improving safety and security features, having better integrations with existing VMS system and cameras, and then continue working with video rather than getting into new spaces like audio, etc.
Perfect. So yeah, so we have that capability to add an endpoint to send out, again, like a pre-recorded alarm saying intruder on the premises, police are being called. But again, all of our analytics still based off the video analytics space as well too for that. So one of the other questions too, one of the hard-hitting ones. So doesn't the development of third-party AI-based analytics stand in opposition with camera manufacturers? I know, Albert, you alluded to some of the partners that we have in the camera manufacturer space. So some of those manufacturers that promote their solution with that, due to relative low processing capabilities, things like that, is this a area of opposition or competition, or could you kind of just elaborate a little bit more on that?
So I have a very funny metrics on this, right? I have the good guys, bad guys, and the friendly guys. So the good guys are those ones which are investing into partner programs. So there's like many camera vendors which have very well-defined and very well-functioning partner infrastructure, where essentially they have just the preliminary analytics like motion detection, or maybe some things around LPR, license plate recognition, or maybe some stuff around facial recognition, but more sophisticated features. They normally have it in the marketplace, or they have the gold partners like Scylla, and then using their functionality and pitching to their customer, like doing joint sales development. So we call them the good guys. Then we have the friendly guys. The friendly guys essentially have their own portfolio, but some of the very rare stuff they don't develop themselves because they want to continue focusing on doing what they do good, like which is the hardware and then the firmware that they have. Maybe they have their own VMS and MDR systems as well, right? And from time to time, they work with Scala, not exclusively, and then introduce us to projects, and we try to deliver those projects around safety and security, which they don't have. And we have the bad guys, which try to do everything themselves or buy out the companies and then make it part of their company. So we don't work with the bad guys, right? So, and I have to tell it from my standpoint as a software provider. But yeah, so in short, with some of them, yes, with some of them, no. So it depends on the philosophy of the company. If you ask myself, those companies should continue doing what they do well and then work with the software companies like Scala and continue getting like more market share with the help of companies like us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that thing of, yeah, the companies that work together and kind of play ball together best. And that's same with us too. Again, we're not we have video management system partners like Milestone, Genetec, some of those integrations that you mentioned there, as well as then even to the things like mobile 911 dispatch. We don't do a lot of these things. So we want to create endpoints. We want to create integrations to do that, as well as create really good relationships with these camera manufacturers and give them capabilities that they otherwise couldn't have. Even inside some of these AI cameras that are limited to that processing power of that camera, we can add some of these analytics with the server, cloud, or edge device analytics as well too for that as well. But perfect. So Ashot, one of the other questions, we're coming down to the wire here on the last couple of questions as well. One of them is, will the Scylla dashboard be multilingual?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's in our backlog. Hopefully we can finish that this year, but if not, in the beginning of 2023.
So it is actually now supporting a couple of languages. So we started obviously with English because it's a US company. It's one of the most widespoken languages globally, right? Then the second language that we translated was Polish, actually. So because we have an engineering office in Warsaw, Poland, and we had a couple of projects where we translated the dashboard to Spanish language for Mexican and Colombian customers. And now, because we are growing the market in Middle East and the share, we are working on the Arabic translation, right? So this is like, so it depends really on the market, where we are and then how fast we grow there, right? We also have plans to support Japanese market because of our relationship with Zenike in Japan. So depends on the market demand and depends how like good is the partner. So if the partner really like wants to help us like in localizing it, because it's not just taking the language translation, right? It should be appropriate. Some words are very weird when you translate and don't represent the local culture, right?
Awesome. So Albert, just to close this out too, I know we've really done a good overview just of Scylla, as well as a lot of these questions that came up. If you could tell us a little bit more about what customers are using Scylla's and what type of integrations we have today.
So we normally concentrate on 4 verticals, right? So the biggest vertical for us is healthcare. So we are very actively growing in healthcare and then hospital chains in the US and outside of the US. The second vertical where we have a major growth is retail. So we work with some of the world's largest retailers on essentially providing our solutions such as shoplifting, gun detection, traffic flow analysis, identifying merchandise efforts, etc. Then we are also very active in law enforcement / security companies, right? So we have major police departments working with us. We have some of the largest security integrators or physical security guarding companies working with us. And the fourth industry where we evolve now. So essentially we are thinking about growing our manufacturing line and then providing more safety solutions. Plus, my personal target is to grow in the aviation industry. We have already a couple of international airports working with us, and we want to grow more into the airport management space to be able to provide operational efficiency for them. So that's essentially where we are now. So to your surprise, we have not many government customers, right? So because like most of the security providers try to get into government space, we started differently. We went into commercial space and then step by step started to increase our government footprint, but we are not there yet.
Awesome. And then some of the integrations too, I know you alluded to this on the dashboard and the website too, but could you kind of give an overview on some of the integrations that we have today as well?
So essentially we have integrations with most of the existing VMS systems, right? So that's Milestone, Genetec, that's Network Optics, that's Hanwha, and then Lux Riot, and many more, right? So we have integrations with alarm notification systems such as Emix or Sentinel. Then we have camera providers. With some of the camera providers, we are either integrated with the SDK directly, like with Mobotics, or we are working with their NDRs, etc. So again, like we try to support majority of them, but obviously we can't support all of them.
Perfect. Well, with that, I want to thank just all of our teammates on the call just for leading this webinar. Again, thank you everyone for submitting these questions too. If you had a question that you maybe submitted that we didn't get to on this call today, or you have one that maybe came up from some of the stuff we went through, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to answer more of your questions directly, even set up a demo call and give you some more information on the Scylla solution. But really appreciate everyone for joining the call today, and look forward to answering more of your questions and helping make your security environment even more proactive than it is today on that side. So thank you so much. Again, I'd like to thank Ara, Albert, and Ashot for your time today on the call, and we look forward to working with you soon.
Sure, likewise. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.